Welcome to the coaching game. I have old-time friend Desheen L. Evans. Hey, Desheen.
Hi,
thank you
Laurie.
for coming back.
You are quite welcome, and thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Let me ask you, I know the last time you were on, you had a big contract going and you were just a bustle of energy. Tell me what's been going on since then.
Well, since you asked.
Always has a story, yes.
Okay, so since you asked, it has been altogether 3+ years, a very emotional roller coaster ride, to say the least. There has been many challenges with the city, such as
the contract was with the city, and I
I'm
was
sorry.
totally amazed that she even got to that point, because I know a friend and I tried to do that once, and the paperwork, we just went, oh, never mind, never mind. So I was so impressed that, wow, you actually got the contract.
Yeah, actually, I identified the contract opportunity with the city of New York, and the total contract is worth $6 million. And I wanted to go after it, and so what I did was I reached out and extended an invite for other people to embark on the journey with me, and I created that vision of how we can do this and so that we can win, and we did. In the course of that, I started to notice different behaviors that didn't align with Eyes of Power, our mission, and my belief system. There was a lot of challenges, such as lack of support with the MWB, which is an acronym for Minority Women Business Enterprise.
Oh, okay.
They have procurement officers that are tasked with accountability and oversight. And throughout the challenges that I've had, I have numerous emails, where I've addressed my concerns. It kind of fell on deaf ears. My work being modified.
With or without your consent?
Exactly.
Okay.
There was a lot of challenges, barring some of my language, because as you know from before, my area of expertise is in trauma. And so the city has something that's called a vetting process. That was also a nightmare.
That was the one that stopped us cold. It was like, whoa.
Right, because I found myself presenting my original work, which was focused around Black trauma and the collective identities, and then having to pretty much read from, I would say, a script of what was my work that was modified. And so I'm speaking in someone else's language. That's not who I am. And so the city felt that I needed training, and they wanted the prime to train me. And so at that point, I said to myself, when I collectively, all of the things that has evolved around this contract, I says, you know what? I am highly intelligent. I have 2 masters, and you don't allow people to humiliate you. And what I learned was that the city, they have never had a course presented to them, and they really liked it. And then I looked at the prime's behavior, where she then went to get herself certified as a WBE, borrowed some of my language to present at the expo about fight, flight, and freeze. And I says, you know what? At some point, we have to know when is enough enough. When we have reached our mental health ceiling. And also, when people do things to you, you felt that you've been served an injustice. Normally, the response for many would be that you're angry. But actually, for me, I wasn't angry. I am delighted, because what that did for me was validate what I already know.
Okay, now let me ask you something, because I love this. I love taking everything and seeing it as an opportunity. I absolutely love that. But at the time, was there no anger? Because I'm almost at a point where I think anger or any kind of emotion like that, negative emotion creates positive emotion eventually. So how did you work through that? You had to be a little angry. They're stealing your work. They're messing with your...
No, actually, what I did was I created a toolbox. And what I began to do was fill up that toolbox. And I took those experiences and I turned it into a positive, and it wasn't being angry, it was more emotional. And when I say emotional, it tapped into emotional trauma for me. My blood pressure was extremely high to the point that at one time I was hospitalized.
Oh my God.
And my asthma, I haven't had an asthma attack in years, and now I find myself back on asthma medication. And I says, you know what? This individual is toxic. You know what you've done. And if after 3+ years, she has never acknowledged what you've done for her, she's not going to. And so, again, with the toolbox, what that has taught me, it positioned me that I've made a number of changes in my company. It has just been a game changer for me, but in great ways, because what I've learned is that when you are dealing with people that pride themselves as being high achievers, and they have a business model that it's no longer working, but they're not going to tell you that. And so you have to figure that out. And what I found was that, for example, the excuse me, the subcontract. We needed a subcontract. The prime and her attorney had issues with getting that. I was able to find one. I presented that to her that she can use with her attorney. It was that, it's not really what we need, but we can use it. It went from that to an operation manual that what she envisioned how it should be. And so the bottom line is that it's okay if you don't know something. We all learn. And so I had to start questioning myself, because as the MWBE, to meet those utilization goals, one of my roles would be contract administrator. And I says, I know that this would be problems for me, and I know that the city has certain clauses in place like liquidated damages. Do you really want to get caught up in that? She doesn't appreciate you. She doesn't value you. And when you're, again, dealing with people like that, you have, at some point, you have to say to yourself, enough is enough. And when it starts tapping into our collective identities as minorities, and I knew that I needed to just get away from that, because, again, I know my skill sets. And when you come from a place of integrity, Laurie, there's no dollar amount for that.
That's your decision maker, and that sometimes you get lost in that. You get lost filling out papers, and you get lost dealing with not so pleasant personalities, or jumping obstacles and going through hoops. But if you can get back to a place of integrity, and I'm wondering, how did you do that in the hospital, with your blood pressure skyrocketing and not being able to breathe? It's like, how did you get back to integrity? Because we all, the decisions are so easy once you do that. Once you say, okay, I got it. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Well, what I did was I went to the dollar store. And I got a few really big construction sheets of paper, because my hallway is very long, and I used that as a visionary board.
Oh my gosh.
And so the first thing that I did was I started to do a lot of self-assessments, and I was looking at things from a clinical perspective, because I also have that background as a social worker, because when we are looking to make change, it's very important that you're honest with yourself. It has to start with you.
Yes.
And so I needed to look at, what are you doing versus what you're not doing. And so I started to, it's like a puzzle, and you start filling in what the pieces that you need to fill in. And once that puzzle is complete, you can then step back and you can say, okay, so I am seeing the pieces of this puzzle for what it is. And for me, it was that this individual, it was about $1. And we as business owners, we have to have money to survive in business. But what I also paid attention to was that this contract is around professional development services. And so I know that the majority of services provided to people in communities is really is minorities. That's really kind of the biggest population that the city service. And so I know all of the experiences that I've had. So I have a lot of different trade secrets that I know that this would not be healthy for me. And I don't want myself or my people in the community to be attached to that. And then I also plugged in the coaching piece. And I am in no way knocking coaches. Everyone's different. You have some that they use coaching as, if you will, like a Ponzi scheme. And you have some that they really follow the 11 core competencies of the International Coach Federation. And so what I began to look at was, for example, accountability, self-awareness, and when people point things out to you and you don't do anything about it, it's either one or two things. You don't care or you don't value that individual's feelings. And so I started to question, well, who holds this individual accountable? And if she cannot acknowledge that she needs training herself, then she hasn't really accepted her own biases and blind spots. And how is this going to work?
Because the purpose of your organization was to bring that awareness about and to deal with
absolutely. And
so if somebody isn't, if the top part doesn't understand what the underlings, so to speak, or what the whole the foundation is doing,
right,
it's a little shaky.
And then for Eyes of Power, our mission is to enhance and save lives, not destroy lives. And I know, as a woman of color living and breathing and living in a trauma-embedded community, I know what putting out false things can do. Because most importantly, you need to understand the culture. And I've just taken a whole, as I said, this has been a game changer for me. And so we operate from a respect-based model.
Wow.
And so everything is very different. And I also have now in place a non-disclosure, because what I've learned is that, and that's always going to happen, people will even go to your website and borrow your stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's really nothing you can, it's some things you can do, but it's that you have to be the wiser, where no one puts all of their things on the website and things that you share. And, like myself, I'm very passionate about what it is that I do. And I've learned to share that passion with limits. But at the end of the day, when this is something that's authentic, it just comes natural for me.
Well, that's it, and that's a hard lesson, and it's a balancing act, because when you're always wondering, if I write an article for this magazine, where's this going, and what are my rights? And so there's a bit of protection, but there's also, because you're a coach, it's like I want to share. That's my mission. I want to share my experience and help you and bring you along and actually find out about your experience too.
Right.
So that's but non-disclosure, that's good. So you mean if they participate in Eyes of Power, then they sign a non-disclosure?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And also with my book, that I'm not going to release the name now, because I needed to go back to my publisher. And so the copyrights are being done again, because again, you have to protect,
the innocent. Yeah.
Right. And so because I know over a 3-year span, this individual, the prime, is not forthcoming, because now you're taking credit for what you haven't done. You've never even said thank you, acknowledged Eyes of Power. And so I have over 3 years of data that's going into the book, all of the challenges with the city. Because what happened was, prior to me meeting this individual, I had a pretty good relationship with city employees. And because I decided to come forward, all of that's down the drain. But what I learned from that was the last complaint that I filed, it was with the mayor's office, because I reached out to have a meeting with the mayor's office and also with the city comptroller's office. And you're blocked from doing that, by the way. Every trick in the book. And so I'm sharing that, and I had to make a sound decision. I says, well, you know what? So be it, because people need to be aware that when you are not a prime and you opt to be a sub, the city really doesn't be bothered with you. Although, if that contract has MWBE utilization goals, I'm thinking 3 years, there should be some procurement officer that's following this. But that wasn't the case. And so I'm looking at, well, and I started questioning that, when the proposal is submitted, by the way, I carry all 5 of those heavy boxes by myself, the proposal, down to the city to be registered. If my company is there to meet the MWBE utilization goal, I thought that at some point a procurement officer should reach out to me, but that wasn't the case. And so when the contract is now registered, no one still reaches out, and the prime was allowed to bring someone in that's not a part of the contract to present to the city, which was misleading because that individual was not a part of the team. And I go back to the city comptroller's office, because this has been a pattern for years and years and years. And I says, well, you know what? I have to call it for what it is, because now if I get an email from Mox, which is the mayor's office, and the email is saying to me that, Ms. Evans, we take your complaint very serious. I want you to know, but we don't get in like subcontracts if they sign, the prime signs or not, but we're taking it very serious. We're talking to DCAS, that's Department of Citywide Agencies. And so I started saying to myself, well, what kind of investigation is that if you're still allowing the contract to move forward? How serious are you taking it? And so for me, that was like a slap in the face to minorities. And I says, well, you know what? If I'm going to tell a story, then I need to back up what I'm saying. And so again, I have my book. I don't really care at this point.
So is your book going to be like how to maneuver through the maze of city insanity?
It offers, I'm just going to say that it shares that, and it offers a lot of tools that people can use, particularly minorities, because we've had this to happen for many, many years, and so that we can respond differently. And so I'm sharing that aside from that, I have had other emotional traumas, but I'm still standing.
Yeah.
And the point of this is to show that you don't allow anyone to devalue you and to minimize your skill sets. And again, when you come from a place of integrity, you can walk away. And this entire situation, as I said, has been a game changer for me. The prime, what she's done is validate how powerful I really am.
What's different for you now? Because, I mean, you were a go-getter when you were last time on the show. It's like, oh, I know how to do this, and I get this, and you have many accomplishments. So what's different? How has that enhanced what you already have?
Okay, without giving away too much, I'm just going to say that
still a secret.
I have had wonderful doors open for me since that, because I already know how powerful my skills are, and that validated even more the visions that I'm able to create for others. I have been penned with the nickname the Visionary Ninja, and I'm also, you will see a lot of things slowly starting to surface of our most recent success, which is what we did.
And that's Eyes of Power?
That's correct.
And how did Eyes of Power come about?
Well,
Because that's a new website, yes?
No, Eyes of Power are actually last Friday, December 13th, marked 6 years that we've been in existence.
Okay.
And it stems from my years of walking the beat. So I walk in different communities. I'm always talking to people, and I help people see things that they're not really able to see, or to just, it may be a little foggy for them. And I realized, like, you're really good at this, you know, and it's pretty much kind of showing people the pros and the cons, that it's a way out. There is there is light at the other end of the tunnel. Maybe you can go this way through the tunnel versus going this way.
But do you also show them that you're in a tunnel? I mean, because
absolutely,
because sometimes it's really dark and it's like, what is this? Where am I?
Right.
What am I doing? So you show them that you're in a tunnel, but here's some outs for you. Yeah?
Actually, I have a new service that's coming in place, and it is a tunnel. And so at different points, your pain points throughout the tunnel, the light comes on.
Oh my gosh.
And so if the light doesn't come on, you've taken a wrong turn. So we need to go back until we get it right. And I love it, because what I do is I don't put anything out that I have not personally beta tested myself. And so I know that this works, and that was what helped me to get where I am right now.
Well, let me ask you something. I love that concept. But it's like, okay, let's say you're in the tunnel and the light doesn't come on. Is there a way to make the light come on, or is it just, don't waste your time, go ahead and go the right way?
Nope, that light is not going to come
based
on.
on your experience.
Right, because for me, it would be a trick. It would be blindsiding you. It would be misleading you. And I don't want people to be misled. I'm just going to share a little bit that I wasn't always like this. And so, you know, when I look in the mirror, Laurie, I have to laugh, because this individual, she's like really comfortable that she shares some of that. The city is not going to do anything. So for her mindset, which I can say that this is the mindset that the city helped create for her, because many of her friends have done this over and over and over, so they know that it works.
And it's a rut. I mean, the more you do it, the more you become ensconced, and here's how it's done.
Right.
You know?
And so what I've realized is that...
That's why they need visionary ninjas.
Thank you. And so what I've realized is that this is just who she is. That's her DNA. It doesn't mean that I need to be like her or respond in a way that is expected for me to respond. And so what I've done is I've taken that, and as I speak today, what I'm doing is I am creating that platform specifically for minorities to have a voice. Because when we have things that happen, like, we don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, you know what, today I'm going to be angry. Something happened. And so if we're not able to honestly express that without being stereotyped as the angry black person or the angry Puerto Rican or the angry minority, because we're not valued, we're not considered to be equal, there has to be something that we've done. You know, if we commit a crime or if we do something else, we will be all over the news. And I mean, I've had many that they've gone through great lengths to keep me quiet, but I'm not going to be quiet, and I'm going to expose her for who she is and my experience, because this is my experience, and I have a right to share how this entire experience has been emotional for me. And hopefully that this can really open some doors, and that there is some change, effective change. Not that the mayor adds more money for MWBEs, or you designate someone to oversee that, and when you reach out, nothing happens. Okay, so what are the next steps? And that kind of goes back to when we speak to minorities, the collective identities, because had I been the old Desheen, my response would have been very different. But I know today that that doesn't help me. And so what you do, and what I've done in this teaching, people that you take that and you turn it into a positive.
Beautiful.
Because when you know who you are, you can do that. And you have to always think. And so part of this new game changer that I have coming out, it's self-care, values, and then the business model.
Wow, I love that. There's a great saying. It's like, don't try to be like everybody else. Be yourself. Nobody else has the job. Take it, you know. But speak to me, because we only have like 3 minutes left.
Okay.
Talk to me about self-care, the value of self-care, because I love that that's a part of your model. That's beautiful.
Self-care is very, very, I can't stress enough how important that is.
And not to be confused with selfish, because you're not selfish. You've got to take care of yourself first if you want to do all the things that you're doing.
So what I've done, I departmentalize, and I had to. And so it's sort of like in business, it would be a sales funnel. I made it into a self-care funnel. So for those that are extremely toxic, like they're never going to buy, this is where they are in a funnel. Right? Some that I can deal with you, just not right now. I have to designate a specific amount of time.
A little bit of meditation.
That part of the funnel,
yeah.
right? And for those that, they're toxic maybe once a month or something, this is where they are. And so that's a part of my regime for self-care, and I had to do that. I have so many people that they have attitudes. It's okay, because when you in business or just life period and people are not doing what you're doing, or they have no intentions on doing what you're doing, at some point you have to separate. You have to change your social circle. And I had to do all of that because it's too much for me. Because here's the thing. If I stayed attached to that contract and I go back in the hospital, the prime and her friends, they're just going to keep going on. She's showing you that now, that she doesn't care about you.
But I love that, but it's very idealistic to go, okay, no toxic people in my life. You're not saying that. You're saying, I can recognize that this is toxic, and I'm going to put aside a little bit of time, not a lot, a little bit of time, and deal with that if I have to. And yet, I'm still, so there is self-care. That's taking care of myself, so that I can take care of all these other cool people that are really working with me and on my same vibration, and maybe bring over a few from the middle group.
Exactly.
Beautiful, beautiful plan.
And just for closure, as far as the value, is what you believe yourself to be, and you really have to believe that wholeheartedly.